Hello everyone, it's Steve with Aptera Owners Club. Okay, this is part 3 of Aptera in St. Moritz. I think there is some good information in this section, so let's see.
What angle is
Yeah, yeah. It's part of the light. It's actually part of the light package. So. If somebody clipped you, you may have to replace that foam piece and the light. But hopefully it's not too expensive.
Okay, so they're talking about rear collisions, and he was saying that there's a foam piece on the corner, and you might have to replace the light and the foam piece, but they think that the actual carbon fiber and fiberglass might be able to withstand some significant hits. Probably not like if you were in an accident, a real accident, but like parking mishaps, basically.
$250, $300 fix.
more probably he will not clip you, but pass on.
Yeah. Unless it's like a truck or something, everything's going to be lower than you, right? That's interesting because the Aptera is so round. Most of the accidents would be glancing blows. So like if you got a side impact, most of the time it's not going to be dead end.
The whole force would
truck.
be.
It'll lift the Aptera up, so it would go under the Aptera. And that's good for the passengers because you want the impact sequence to be as long as possible. You don't want the force to transfer into your body.
Yeah.
So same thing in the front. We have a big crushable area in the front, but then the firewall's angled. So if you got into a bad frontal impact, everything would fold up, and then the Aptera would go up. So that would extend the impact sequence, make it safer.
So is this enough to practically replace the side airbags because it is so round that
That's
the
the
impact
idea.
would be delayed
Yeah, and you have more,
or
and you have
extended?
and you have more room, to actually hit the side. Most of your injuries from a side impact hit here.
Yeah.
All of your injuries usually happen here. So the side impact test, you're like, oh, it's your head. It's not usually your head. It's usually your hip and your
I
ribs.
didn't know that.
So we have a big boxed out section of body.
Yeah.
And the reason we did that is because it keeps your hip point very safe. So we try to make the boxed out section of the door and the boxed out section of the body really thick. And we will have very, very good side impact strength. We already had the highest roof truss strength of any passenger car on the road. So we're going for the same thing with the side intrusions as well. But we don't know until we actually test the final production version. So we have to send it off to the test lab. They charge us like 30 grand every time they crash it, and they give us all the data. But we'll publish that so you guys can see it too.
Yes.
Everybody wants to know that it's
Everybody is interested in that, especially in the United States. I
Yeah.
think they are much more fixated on those crash tests.
Yet people buy 1980 sports cars
People don't even
and they
know
drive
that
them
most
around
cars are
at 80,
not
90 miles an hour. Those cars are death traps, man. Like if you're driving anything like pre-1990, like the standards were just totally different.
I remember my toolbox, which was a
Okay, so I think that was a very important sequence where Chris is talking about all the safety benefits of the Aptera. So I thought he stated it very well. It's very rounded, so you'll have the Aptera be lifted up, which you would initially think would make it more dangerous because it would get lifted up and probably might get thrown a little bit if in a hard enough accident. But that's preferable to being like smashed. And he was saying that the side impact is mostly in the torso area from intrusion of the vehicle, and he reiterated their commitment to do actual crash testing and to release that data. So we will get full information on that when they do that.
Yeah. But we didn't set out to just design a safe vehicle. We want to design the safest vehicle on the road. And with the carbon fiber composites and all that stuff.
So there are real chances that those crash tests will pass as the safest vehicle at all.
In many ways, there's a lot of safety standards that don't really make passengers safer because they were written by legislators to try to get the auto industry to build their vehicles in a certain way. A great example in the U.S. is that the rollover protections for SUVs in the U.S. is garbage because the federal government stepped in and made sedans and passenger cars super safe for rollover. They made your roof protection like really extreme. But then the automakers came back and said, it's costing us too much money to build these cars with these really strong roofs. So how about we exclude the SUVs and, you know, lobbyist money pays the bills for these politicians. So they're like, okay, yeah, we'll do that. So now SUVs are excluded from that. So that's why you see like the Ford range, like the big pickup trucks and the big SUVs. Like when they roll over, it's not fun. It's bad stuff. But you would think the bigger vehicle is heavier, the more strength wise are less.
And the higher it is, more probably it will propose.
Okay, so that was interesting what Chris was saying about that the roof strength requirement for SUVs SUVs are exempted. I don't know if that's true. If anyone knows if that's true, let us know in the comments below. I'll look it up myself later on.
Yeah.
Probably not all.
It makes sense to people when you talk to
Probably
the
not
roof.
all to the roof, but to the side.
But that's not how politicians and legislators work, right? That's but, you know, I think we've thought about safety in a different way, and it'll hopefully show well.
You brought it from US, this one from Modern? From Modern. Because the first prototype is
well, this is the first gamma interior. All the other manufacturers are production.
Yeah, okay, but the first one is more like
Yes, this is pretty much production interior. The body is still in production.
and how?
Okay, Steve Fambro talks way too quietly for us to pick up on the mic, and you can tell that he's definitely the introvert of the two. He's not as engaged in the crowd as much. I think he's more of the quiet introvert here. But I wish he would speak a little louder so we could hear what he's saying.
No, we just invited people that were close to come see it.
I have no connections to the press, unfortunately. But I thought this would be great if you would drive with this on the place in front of the Bundeshaus, the government building in Bern.
Oh.
Because there is always press around. And if you did not invite press, somebody will be there.
I'm sure we could do a lot of good press. It's just, you know, we have so many orders in the U.S. compared to here. It's hard to justify sending a marketing team over to like do a whole press tour and all that stuff.
Well, I
Once we get to production, you know,
it will sell itself.
yeah, we're not hurting for orders. We have 41,000 orders, so we're not trying to get orders. We're trying to get investors.
Yeah, but investors as well that they read newspapers.
True. It's a balancing act.
But I imagine you have a tight schedule.
Yeah, well, I mean, it would be me and Steve doing it, right? So the longer we're away from home, the less, more the engineering slows down. So it's good to not stay away for too long.
Of course.
But this was a good trip. Hopefully we meet lots of investors and they like what we're doing.
You also got this car to Taiwan, right?
Different one, the Alphas.
The Alphas.
So I went to Taiwan for the Alphas and we signed a long-term battery deal. Yeah. That's more like 2026, 2028.
Yeah, that was a great relief to hear from that battery deal.
Yeah.
Because it's crucial. Not every automobile maker has that.
Yeah, I have another battery company. I started a company called Flux Power years ago, and we're the #1 supplier to a lot of the major forklift brands in North America. So we also build for robotics and other stuff, but it's lithium iron phosphate, so it's a little safer chemistry, and it's good for industrial applications because they have high insurance hurdles. Insurance companies won't cover them if they have stuff that's too flammable. So you know, that gave me the luxury of going to visit all these battery manufacturers in Asia. I went to a lot of nice Chinese dinners, and met with a lot of nice. But then when we got to finding the batteries for this vehicle, I had lots of connections to go to. But we have a very cool
And you
battery
did not
pack
opt for
arrangement.
Flux Power batteries because it's LFP, which has not such a great weight to energy ratio.
Well, we wanted to develop our own battery system too, so you know, we hired up a battery team, and the reason I started Flux Power was because I created a better battery management system, a better computer that manages the batteries.
It's not so much about the cells, but
About how you might manage them.
The know-how, that is all the values in the know-how.
Yeah. So if you just take a lithium cell like are in this vehicle and you use them without the battery management, they would last 2, 3, maybe 500 cycles. If you manage them well, they'll last 3 to 5,000 cycles. So they last 10 times as long. If you
At Flux Power, you did develop the cells as well, or just?
I developed a sulfur carbon battery that's now being developed for space applications and aviation. But that was just a totally separate company. Flux Power, we just started with the battery management system and then made really cool battery packs. And then we got into where they're using batteries most, which is forklifts and robotics and stuff in the logistics world. That's where most electric vehicles in the world are forklifts and stuff that works in logistics. Way more than passenger cars or anything else. There's just tons of equipment out there that's run by batteries. And everybody's trying to get away from propane. You don't want to use propane inside because people have to breathe that, they have to breathe the emissions. So diesel and propane are like out for any food distribution or any food service stuff and any cold room stuff. Europe has basically banned it. North America's getting close. So everybody's trying to convert all that logistics equipment to electricity, meaning lithium or something. It's either lead acid or lithium. So we're trying to make lithium. But yeah, when we started this, I made that BMS almost 10 years ago. So my brain churns all the time. So when we got to building the battery pack for this, I have so many ideas on how a battery management system could be made better, how a battery pack could be made better. So Steve and I, one of the first things we did when we restarted the company was started working on the battery pack. He was in the hospital with a burst appendix and almost died. I 3D printed out cells and we were working in his hospital bed on how we were going to make the battery pack work for the Aptera early on. It was interesting times.
Yeah, your experience and your success with Flux Power was a big reinforcement for me to have confidence that this will succeed. Also the boat building company and Steve's experience with his companies.
Yeah, I mean, we were building.
This was so important to have the confidence to invest in Aptera. Without that, I would have thought, oh well, who is this? What did they do? And so.
Yeah, I think it was really cool that we were able to reach out to
there are
Sandy
many
Monroe
people
too.
with great experience also.
There's a lot of great ideas that don't have enough
Chief
business
Technical
savvy
Officer and Sandy Monroe who came in.
Yeah, Sandy's been great.
It's very important to give confidence.
Coach is our VP of engineering over there. He leads all of our engineers.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Okay.
We brought him too. He speaks Italian, so that's good. He's been our translator.
I speak a bit Italian too.
Yeah, unfortunately, I know.
Not very well anymore since
I know
also
British
speak
and I know Southern American. I lived in Germany for a while, but it's been so many years. I was in high school. I don't remember any German anymore.
Living in California, you also speak Spanish?
A little bit, enough to order a beer.
That's important.
Una cerveza, por favor, It works. They give you beer. You give them money, they give you beer.
When I forgot my Spanish and then before I forgot my...
All the Latin languages you can kind of stumble around, but traveling in Asia, it's so foreign. You can't stumble through it. You don't recognize anything.
You have to find someone who speaks English.
Yeah.
What's your experience then in Slovenia? How's the language there?
Yeah, Slovenia is a
with
weird one.
English?
Yeah, they have it's like an offshoot of Russian, right? Cyrillic language and stuff. They all speak English very, very well.
We do.
Lots of education. What is the language? What's the root of the language there?
Slavic.
Oh, sorry.
But the interesting thing about Slovenian is that we understand most of the other Slavic languages, right? But almost no one else in the Slavic language group understands us.
That's like the Swiss with their Swiss German.
That's also very
We
interesting.
understand everybody, but someone from northern Germany has not the slightest chance to understand how we speak.
What's the town? Ljubljana?
Ljubljana.
Ljubljana. It's a beautiful town. I'm surprised, Slovenia doesn't have more tourist, activity because.
Actually, we have so many that people are starting to complain.
Oh.
Yeah, when I was there was not too many hotels, so now it's the other way around.
Well, tourist dollars are easy dollars, so
Definitely.
I would take them. San Diego's got a good tourist economy and just pays dividends because the tourists come in, they pay for the infrastructure you want, they pay extra taxes. You know, it's, you got to make it work for you though.
So we're here in the Aerodynamic region.
Yeah.
This is very touristic. Without tourism, this
Yeah.
would be a bit agriculture and then nothing.
There's lots of amazing places in the world if you can get to them.
I have a question about solar.
Yes, sir.
Was it in plan already on day one?
No.
Because I
We set out
remember
to design the most efficient vehicle, and then we came to the realization, like, because we had a solar panel on the first Aptera iteration 10 years ago, but it only put out like 60 watts, 70 watts. It was like a
a
strip
bit
in the
of air
middle.
conditioning.
And it was because the cells were only like 13 to 15% efficient. But then we got to rebuilding this one, and it was like, shit, cells are like 25% efficient now. So you can get so much more power. Well, how much could we get out of the roof now? Oh, you can get like 180 watts out of the roof. Oh, what if we cover the tail? Oh, shit, we could get like 300 watts out of the tail. And start putting it all together, you're like, it could be like 650, 700 watts of power. Okay, if we're only burning 100 watt hours per mile, you know, that can get you over 30 miles a day easy. Well, the average person in North America drives 30 miles a day, so that means for most people you'd never have to plug it in. By the time we got all the numbers done and the power conversion efficiency and stuff, I mean, we're still at like 40 miles a day in the summer. So, but we didn't start with that. We started with build the most efficient vehicle platform, and then we had 100 watt hours per mile or less, and then we figured that the solar would actually, you know, serve a
I
useful
remember
purpose.
first render you put on Refunder, it was blank without solar.
Yeah.
And then I said in the comments like, put some solar on it, and then day or two
I
after it
remember.
appeared with solar.
Maybe you gave us the idea. Maybe we owe you royalty.
I like
No,
to see people.
He deserves a medal.
Before we started the WeFunder, I had solar in this configuration on my roof. So we built like the hatch, we built the roof, the dash, and the hood. We had this big thing on my roof, and we would turn it like throughout the day, and like we found like the optimal position, and we took data for, you know, it was probably 3 months before we introduced it, because we didn't know, like, because they were at such different angles, like, could you actually harness the power effectively? So after we took several months of data, we kind of felt confident, like, yeah, this works, you know, this 700 watts of solar could actually turn into really useful range. So then we announced it and changed all the WeFunder stuff.
I mean, I find it very sad that there's this World Solar Challenge in Australia every other year.
Yeah.
And it's going on for 30 years and the industry haven't moved at all. I mean, you guys are the first one actually taking some lessons from there.
We're taking a very different approach. Yeah, the Lightyear guys,
Lightyear
they started
guys
in the
are the other
solar
one,
world. You know, they're
have
making a
some
more
problems now.
sedan type vehicle. You know, we started with Aerodynamics lightweight. They
like
started
that.
with how do we get a big solar panel on the top.
Yeah.
So a little different approach, but
I think your approach is the right one.
I think from a first principles perspective, if you started from scratch,
I mean, Paul McCready, one of my personal heroes, all glider pilots know him.
yeah.
He was the one who designed the human-powered airplanes. So he also had this idea how to make the most use of the energy that's available, right?
Yeah.
And he got this idea just from looking at the birds. Raptors, for example, they just glide around, they don't flap their wings, so they are not wasting their energy, not using the energy at all. And then he came with this concept of designing huge super light airplane. And that worked with just a light bicycle guy driving it.
Did they? How far do they fly?
So initial flight was just like between two poles, 1 mile apart in a figure eight.
Oh,
So this was initial flight in the, I think it was early 80s. And then the major challenge was in the Greece. Actually from Crete to another island over it was like over 100 kilometers.
oh wow. Putting somebody to work pedaling that far.
So most of it was in glides, in ground effect, just a meter or two above the sea.
Yeah.
But it was pedaling all the way.
Yeah, it was interesting. The very first design of this, we sent it off to NASA, and they just didn't understand ground effect. So, you know, they designed, you know, planes and missiles and stuff.
There's no
but-
ground.
Yeah, no ground. So, you know, they came back and said, you know, these results are too phenomenal. Like we don't believe that
They
this
don't
change
fit our
has-
model.
Yeah, you know, so they got on a conference call with us. We had like 6 of their engineers on a conference call. You know, no telling how much money they were wasting on that conference call. But yeah, we had to explain to them like, no, when you're on the ground, the air underneath the vehicle has nowhere to go. Like, what do you do with it? Oh, if you could speed it up and you could suck it to the rear of the vehicle, you could get rid of most of that high pressure. And that's what makes things super, super efficient. It's just, that's why the cambered body is like it is. When fish swim close to the seafloor, bigger sharks do it, they put a humper in their back because water is 1,000 times more viscous than air. So, you know, if you had to work that hard to swim, you would figure out really quickly that.
So have you heard of shark skin?
Yes, yep.
That's one tiny detail that Lufthansa is now applying to their airplanes. So Bosch in
The higher
Germany
the
developed...
higher the velocity, the smaller the ripple can be. The problem is at 50 to 70 miles an hour, the ripples on this would have to be like a 1/4 inch tall for it to have an effect, and it would be really hard to clean.
Yes, unpractical.
We did some tests on it years ago.
All right, well, great. I think we'll stop there for this episode. I think that was very interesting. I did not know that they were kind of testing out the solar back in the WeFunder days. They had rigs up on Chris Anthony's roof, and they were testing that for several months before they decided to unveil solar on the Aptera. So that was very interesting to know. And I'm actually very impressed with the way that Chris handles himself. He just talks to people very easily, and I think that's an amazing skill. Okay, all right. Well, I think there's enough footage for about 2 more of these episodes, so stay tuned, and we'll deliver those in the next 2 days. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks as always to our supporting members. Thanks especially to Yuri for giving us this footage and letting us kind of be there virtually with him. And have a great day, everyone.